Do you think the vampires in From Dusk Till Dawn are just regular bloodsuckers? The truth is far more terrifying in this video. We'll uncover the true origins of the Calabra vampires, not European undead, but the descendants of Aztec serpent gods, worshipped in ancient blood cults as divine beings. The infamous Titty Twister bar isn't just a roadside stop, it's built on top of a buried Aztec pyramid, where for centuries ritual blood sacrifices have been performed to feed the serpent gods. These vampires don't just kill to survive, they offer blood as a sacred ritual, honoring the ancient deities beneath the sands. From Santanico Pandemonium, the vampire queen, to Richie Gecko's temptation to join their ranks, From Dusk Till Dawn reveals a world darker, more mysterious, and more horrifying than you ever imagined. Don't miss this deep dive if you want to uncover the hidden lore of From Dusk Till Dawn's vampires and the terrifying pyramid buried beneath the Mexican desert. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more horror deep dives and mythology breakdowns. The desert at night is a strange place. It's quiet, but never truly silent. The wind whispers across endless dunes, the sand crunches under heavy boots, and the stars above glimmer with cold detachment. Out here, you can almost forget the world of cities, jobs, bills, and laws. The desert strips things down to their essence: survival, fear, hunger. Now imagine a lone building in this barren expanse. Its neon lights flicker defiantly against the darkness, buzzing like an electric insect. To the casual traveler, it's just a truck stop bar, a place where long-haul drivers can grab a beer, see a dancer, forget the road for a night. But appearances, as we'll see, are deceiving. This is the Titty Twister, and it is not what it seems. What lies beneath its cracked floorboards and smoky air is older, darker, and far more terrifying than the tired men who stumble in after hours could possibly imagine. The drinks, the dancers, the blaring rock music, they're all just camouflage, just bait, because this bar isn't built on chance or convenience. It's built directly over the ruins of something ancient, something sacred, something hungry, and the predators inside. They're not your familiar vampires, not pale Europeans hiding from sunlight with capes and garlic phobias. No, these are Calabras, creatures older than Dracula, older than folklore, rooted in the serpent gods of Mesoamerican myth. When I first realized what From Dusk Till Dawn was actually saying, it blew me away. It wasn't just a grindhouse vampire flick. It was secretly a story about buried temples, blood sacrifice, and gods disguised as monsters. It was a reminder that horror doesn't just live in castles overseas. Sometimes, it's buried right beneath our own deserts. Why these vampires are different. From the moment the film reveals them, it's clear. These creatures don't follow the same rules we've come to expect. They don't burn at the touch of a crucifix. They don't panic at the smell of garlic. They don't need permission to enter your home. That's because they're not undead at all. They are living organisms, part human, part serpent, descended from an Aztec blood cult that once ruled the deserts of Mexico. Think about how bold that is. Most vampire stories lean on centuries of European tradition, from Bram Stoker's Dracula to Anne Rice's brooding immortals. But From Dusk Till Dawn throws all that out the window. Instead, it gives us creatures tied not to the Gothic cathedrals of Europe, but to the pyramids of the Aztecs. And it makes sense when you think about it. After all, the Aztec pantheon was filled with gods who demanded blood. Human sacrifice wasn't an anomaly in their culture. It was a pillar. Life was sustained by blood, and to withhold it was to deny the gods themselves. So when you see the vampires in the film draining victims, not just to survive, but to worship, it suddenly clicks. This isn't random carnage. This is ritual. Why this works as horror. Horror is most effective when it takes something familiar and twists it into something uncanny. In this case, Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino didn't just give us another vampire story, they dug into a cultural undercurrent that most Western audiences weren't familiar with. By rooting these vampires in Mesoamerican myth, the film plays on a primal unease. We recognize the temple ruins. We know about human sacrifice. We've seen the feathered serpents carved into stone walls. But what if those myths never truly died? What if they simply evolved into something more monstrous? And here's where I think the movie earns its cult classic status. Instead of recycling European vampire tropes, it dares to ask, what would a vampire look like if it was born out of Aztec blood worship? The answer: serpentine, venomous, ritualistic predators who hide in plain sight waiting for the right moment to feed. The origins of the Calabras. In the expanded lore, particularly the TV series that fleshed out the mythology, these creatures are called Calabras, derived from the Spanish word cabra, or snake. They are the children of an obsidian-winged goddess, sometimes linked to Itzpapalotl, the fearsome skeletal warrior goddess of Aztec legend. According to myth, Itzpapalotl devoured souls, especially those of sacrificial victims. She was often depicted with butterfly wings tipped with obsidian blades. Imagine blending that imagery with the idea of vampires, elegant yet lethal, beautiful yet horrifying, ancient yet ever-present. That's the lineage of the Calabras. They aren't corpses reanimated by curses. They are a bloodline, a living continuation of a cult that once thrived on sacrifice. Over centuries, they adapted. They learned to mimic humans. They learned patience. They built their temples in secret and disguised them as ordinary places: trucker bars, roadside stops, lures for the unsuspecting, hidden temples beneath cities. Here's a chilling real-world parallel. In Mexico City, beneath the bustling streets and modern skyscrapers, archaeologists have discovered the remains of Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital. When Spanish conquistadors built their cathedrals and palaces, they literally layered them on top of the old temples. Think about that for a second. Imagine walking to work every day on pavement that covers the bones of thousands of sacrificial victims. Imagine sipping coffee in a cafe built on top of a pyramid where priests once slit open the chests of prisoners to feed the gods. That's not fantasy. That's history. And it makes the premise of From Dusk Till Dawn even scarier, because the Titty Twister is just a fictional exaggeration of something we already know to be true. The past doesn't disappear. It hides under our feet, waiting. Why snakes? The serpent motif isn't random. In Mesoamerican cultures, snakes were powerful symbols. They represented both life and death, creation and destruction. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, was a god of wind and wisdom. Serpents were liminal creatures, bridging worlds. So when the vampires of From Dusk Till Dawn reveal their snake-like features, elongated jaws, venomous fangs, scaled skin, it's not just body horror. It's mythology brought to life. These aren't bats. These aren't wolves. They're serpents. And serpents demand reverence. Transition into the next part. So, what does all this mean for our story? It means that when the Gecko brothers walk into the Titty Twister, they aren't just stumbling into a den of predators. They're stepping into a temple, a living altar where blood is currency, and the gods beneath still demand sacrifice. In the next section, we'll peel back the layers of this temple. We'll see how the bar isn't just a front, but an elaborate ritual site, and we'll uncover the true structure of the Calabra society, a secret order where transformation isn't a curse, but a coveted initiation. The bar that wasn't a bar. Step inside the Titty Twister. The first thing you notice is the noise. Rock music blares from old speakers. Dancers move under neon lights, their silhouettes twisting like flames. The air is thick with cigarette smoke, beer foam, sweat, and something else, something metallic, like blood. The walls are plastered with leather, neon, and gaudy trinkets. But if you look closer, you notice the oddities. A carving here, a cracked stone there. The bones of the building don't match the decor. It feels older, too old for a roadside strip club. That's because the Titty Twister isn't just a bar. It's a mask. Beneath its foundation lie the remnants of a Mesoamerican temple, a pyramid dedicated to serpent gods, long buried by sand and time. Its ruins seep into the architecture. Stone steps lead nowhere. Columns carved with glyphs jut through the floorboards. The bar doesn't just stand here by accident. It's been deliberately built on this site, like a parasite feeding on its host. It draws its energy from the ancient stones and the rituals that take place inside. They're not improvisations. They follow a pattern one as old as the gods beneath the sand. The ritual of the hunt. The night at the Titty Twister follows a ritualistic rhythm. It isn't random chaos when the vampires strike, it's a carefully orchestrated rite. The lore, the music, the dancing, the alcohol. Everything is designed to lower defenses, to seduce and distract, much like the ancient Aztec ceremonies where festivals preceded sacrifice. The victims are lulled into a state of celebration before the knife comes down. The reveal once the prey is inside. The trap springs shut. The doors are locked. The dancers transform. And the neon-lit fantasy crumbles into nightmare. This is the moment when masks fall away and serpents emerge from human shells. The bloodletting victims are slaughtered en masse. Their blood is spilled, not just to sustain the vampires, but to honor the gods buried beneath. The feeding is frenzied, yes, but it's also ritualistic, a sacrifice performed on an altar disguised as a dance floor. The offering, the bodies aren't left behind. They're dragged below, into the depths of the temple. There, the true rituals continue. Blood poured into sacred basins, skulls arranged into patterns. The temple doesn't just feed, it remembers. Every drop of blood is another offering in a cycle that has lasted for centuries. It's terrifying when you realize the Titty Twister isn't just a hunting ground, it's a church, a place where worship and consumption are indistinguishable. Bars as modern temples. Here's something that struck me. In many ways, the Titty Twister is a brilliant metaphor. Think about bars and nightclubs in our own world. They're places where people gather to forget, to indulge, to lose themselves. There's ritual in that, the drinking, the dancing, the flirtation. Now imagine twisting that ritual into something darker. Instead of escape, it becomes entrapment. Instead of pleasure, it becomes sacrifice. That's the genius of the Titty Twister. It flips the idea of nightlife into a literal night of death. And when you realize that real civilizations built temples where blood was the central offering, the metaphor gets sharper. Modern pleasure houses built over ancient houses of worship. Neon over stone. Flesh over bones. The blood cult society. The Calabras aren't just mindless predators. They're organized. They have hierarchy, ritual, and strategy. In other words, they're a society. Rules of the bloodline. Transformation isn't random. Unlike European vampires who can turn anyone with a single bite, Calabras are selective. They choose who to bring into the fold. It's not a disease. It's a lineage. Those transformed are carefully chosen warriors, leaders, or those marked by vision or violence, like Richie Gecko. Once transformed, the new Calabra doesn't become undead. They are reborn, their bodies adapting to serpent biology. Aging slows drastically, sometimes halting entirely. Healing is accelerated, wounds sealing almost instantly. Shape-shifting is possible, with serpent features surfacing at will. Blood is power, not just sustenance. Drinking it strengthens, heals, and fuels ritual magic. Hierarchy and order. At the top sits the vampire queen Santanico Pandemonium in the film, high priestess of the old blood order. Below her are the priests and guardians, those who maintain the rituals and oversee recruitment. Beneath them are the warriors enforcers, who protect the temple and feed strategically. This structure isn't accidental. It mirrors the way Mesoamerican priesthoods once organized society. High priests controlled ritual, warriors captured victims, and everyone served the gods. The Calabras are simply the continuation of that order, evolved and disguised to survive into the modern age. Secret societies and bloodlines. Here's where the horror feels eerily real. History is filled with tales of secret societies that guard knowledge and bloodlines. From the Freemasons to royal dynasties, humans have always been fascinated and terrified by groups that claim hidden power passed down through generations. The Calabras tap into that same fear. They're not just random monsters. They're keepers of a bloodline. Imagine if a family or cult survived for 1,000 years, hiding their true nature, shaping history from the shadows. It's the kind of conspiracy that both terrifies and fascinates us. And isn't that the essence of horror? To take something we half believe in and twist it just enough to feel possible. Why selective transformation is scarier. There's something chilling about the idea that these vampires don't just kill, they recruit. They don't turn everyone, only those they see potential in. It's not unlike the way cults operate. Charismatic leaders don't waste energy on every passerby. They choose the vulnerable, the ambitious, the ones who can be molded. That makes their power scarier because it's not chaotic, it's calculated. And the scariest monsters are the ones who think strategically. Transition into next part. By now, we understand the Titty Twister is more than a bar. It's a temple disguised as a dive, and the creatures within are more than vampires. They are the priests, warriors, and guardians of a blood cult that has survived for centuries. But the story doesn't end there, because when the Gecko brothers arrive, the temple doesn't just see them as prey, it sees them as potential recruits. In part 3, we'll follow the brothers into the heart of the nightmare and explore how transformation becomes not just survival, but initiation into an ancient order. The Gecko brothers enter the temple. The Gecko brothers Seth and Richie are not innocent men. By the time they arrive at the Titty Twister, they're already fugitives, their hands stained with violence. On the surface, they're predators in their own right, wolves hiding among sheep. But what they don't realize is that they're walking into a den of lions. To them, the bar looks like a refuge, a place to regroup, get a drink, and catch their breath before slipping into Mexico. But the irony of From Dusk Till Dawn is that predators become prey the moment they cross the threshold, and yet the vampires don't immediately kill them. The Gecko brothers are different. They're dangerous, ruthless, and, most importantly, willing to cross moral lines most men won't. That makes them ideal candidates for transformation. The seduction of Richie Gecko. Among the two brothers, Richie is the most unstable. He's plagued by visions, violent impulses, and an almost spiritual fascination with blood. To the vampires, especially Santanico Pandemonium, he's marked. When she dances before him, it's not just seduction, it's initiation. Her serpentine body coils like a ritual, her movements echoing the rhythms of ancient ceremonies. She doesn't just want to kill him, she wants to recruit him. For Richie, the allure is irresistible. In his fractured mind, the vampires don't represent monsters. They represent belonging, a family, a cult that understands his hunger for violence and channels it into something sacred. This is where the film shifts from simple survival horror into something deeper. It becomes about the temptation of transformation as rebirth. Unlike European vampires, where turning is often a curse, transformation into a Calabra is framed as rebirth. It's ritualistic, selective, and powerful. The bite is not just a wound, it's a ritual mark, a passage into a new existence. The body changes, scales creep across the skin, eyes shift into serpent pupils, bones elongate. The transformation is both horrifying and or inspiring, a grotesque evolution. The mind expands, hunger deepens, but so does connection. The new Calabra becomes part of the blood cult, tied to its ancient lineage. This is what makes their mythology fascinating. It's not about dying and coming back. It's about shedding a skin, like a serpent, and becoming something other. The horror of recruitment. I find this element of the story the scariest. Death is frightening, yes, but assimilation, that's far more terrifying. Think about cults in real life. Rarely do they kill outsiders on sight. Instead, they charm, seduce, and slowly pull people in. They tell you you're special, chosen, marked for something greater. That's exactly what the Calabras do. It's horror that mirrors reality. Monsters that don't just destroy, they convert. And in that conversion, they strip you of your humanity willingly. That's far worse than being eaten alive. Santanico Pandemonium, the High Priestess. At the center of this recruitment stands Santanico Pandemonium, played with hypnotic menace by Salma Hayek. She's not just a dancer. She's a priestess, a queen, a bridge between the human world and the serpent gods below. Her very name signals her role, Santanico, tied to Satan and sanctity, and Pandemonium, the capital of hell in Milton's Paradise Lost. She's chaos made flesh. When she dances, it's more than performance. It's liturgy. The stage is her altar, the music her hymn, and the audience her congregation. When she reveals her true form, serpent eyes, venomous fangs, it's less of a shock and more of a revelation. This is what she truly is. This is what she has always been. And for Richie Gecko, this is what he was meant to join. The Gecko brothers' divergence. What makes the Gecko brothers compelling is how differently they respond to this nightmare. Richie's tempted, lured, almost ready to surrender to the cult. For him, transformation feels like destiny. His violence, his instability, his visions, they all point toward becoming one of them. Seth, on the other hand, resists. He's pragmatic, grounded, focused on survival. Where Richie sees belonging, Seth sees manipulation. Where Richie is seduced, Seth is repulsed. This divergence drives the tension. One brother could join the cult, the other could destroy it. And in between them lies the question, what does survival really cost? The allure of cults. There's a reason why cult documentaries captivate us. Groups like Jonestown or Heaven's Gate show us how ordinary people can be seduced into extraordinary horrors. It's never just about belief. It's about belonging, structure, and the promise of transcendence. That's exactly what the Calabras offer. They don't just say, feed with us. They say, become one of us, join our order, transcend your human limits. For someone like Richie Gecko, who has never fit into normal society, this is irresistible. It's the horror of finding the perfect place for your worst impulses. Transformation as a choice. What makes this scarier than most vampire myths is the implication of choice. You don't just wake up as a vampire one night. You don't get bitten randomly in a back alley. You're chosen, and then you choose back. The ritual is seductive because it offers a twisted form of agency. Do you want power? Do you want to live forever? Do you want to give in to your hunger instead of repressing it? That's a temptation few can resist, and in that choice lies the true horror. The longer you stay, the more you change. The film also suggests that the temple itself exerts influence. The longer the Gecko brothers and other survivors remain inside, the more they are changed physically, mentally, spiritually. This isn't just a nest. It's a liminal space, a place where the human world and the serpent gods overlap. Every moment inside erodes humanity and replaces it with something older, something reptilian. It reminds me of haunted house stories where the house itself consumes those who enter. Except here, the house is a temple, and the consumption is both literal and symbolic. Transition into next part. By the time dawn approaches, the Gecko brothers' fate hangs in the balance. One tempted by transformation, the other fighting for survival. They are pawns in a much older game, a game of gods and blood. But the most shocking revelation comes not from the vampires themselves, but from the land they stand on. Because as the sun rises, the camera pulls back, and we see the truth. The Titty Twister was only the surface. Beneath the desert sand lies an entire pyramid, proof that this isn't a new story, but a cycle that has been repeating for centuries. In part 4, we'll descend beneath the sand, into the pyramid itself, and uncover the true scope of the horror, a civilization of blood that never really died. The dawn reveal. The climax of From Dusk Till Dawn doesn't end when the sun rises. In fact, the most chilling moment comes after the survivors stagger out into the desert light, leaving the bar behind them. As the camera pulls back, we see the truth. The Titty Twister isn't just a bar. It isn't even just a temple. It's the tip of something colossal buried in the sand. A step pyramid, unmistakably Aztec in design, stretches beneath the desert floor. Its massive stone steps are carved with glyphs, its base surrounded by bones, broken vehicles, and offering pits. The ground around it is littered with the wreckage of centuries' wagons, trucks, cars, each belonging to victims lured into sacrifice. The implication is staggering. This has been happening for hundreds of years. Generations of travelers have vanished into this site, never to return. And the cult, it never stopped feeding. It just kept evolving, adapting, hiding beneath new disguises, while its foundation remained eternal. The temple as memory. What makes this reveal so powerful is the idea that the temple itself remembers. It isn't just stone. It's a monument of memory, built from centuries of blood sacrifice. Every bone dragged below adds to its weight. Every ritual performed within strengthens its power. This ties directly to Mesoamerican cosmology, where temples were not just places of worship, but literal portals between worlds. They were living conduits to the gods. To build one was to align with cosmic forces. To bury one was to suppress those forces temporarily. But the desert cannot forget. The sands shift, but the pyramid remains. And as long as it stands, the hunger continues. Hidden structures in plain sight. This reveal resonates beyond horror, because it mirrors reality. Think about modern cities. Beneath Mexico City lies the ruins of Tenochtitlan. Beneath Rome lie layers of older Rome. Beneath churches in Europe lie pagan temples. We build over the past, but the past doesn't vanish. It waits. It lingers beneath foundations, sometimes unearthed by accident, sometimes deliberately concealed. That's what the pyramid beneath the Titty Twister represents. It's a reminder that the horrors of history don't disappear. They are buried, but never dead. Expanded lore, the serpent gods, the expanded universe of From Dusk Till Dawn, particularly the TV series, fleshes out the mythology even more. The Calabras are linked to Itzpapalotl, the obsidian-winged goddess, but their society also reveres serpent deities tied to sacrifice and rebirth. Itzpapalotl, known as the obsidian butterfly. She's a skeletal warrior goddess who devours souls. The Calabras claim descent from her, embodying her hunger and her transformation. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god, often associated with wisdom and wind. Though not directly tied to the vampires, his symbolism of serpents as liminal beings echoes in their biology. Itzpapalotl, the primordial crocodile serpent that devoured and regenerated itself. Like Itzpapalotl, the Calabras embody endless cycles of consumption and renewal. By rooting the vampires in these myths, the story elevates them beyond simple monsters. They become avatars of ancient gods that demanded blood and never stopped hungering. The pyramid as war zone. When the Gecko brothers stumble into the Titty Twister, they aren't just entering a nest. They're stepping into an ancient war zone. The pyramid represents more than sacrifice. It's the site of a conflict between humans and gods. Every victim pulled inside is another soldier fallen in a war they never even knew they were fighting. And here's the tragedy. The vampires don't want to kill everyone. They want to recruit. They want to expand their order, to pull more humans into their lineage, to turn enemies into priests. This is why Richie Gecko is so important. He's not just a victim. He's a potential warrior for the old blood order. The temple isn't just feeding, it's recruiting. It's waging war through assimilation, archaeological unearthings. This moment reminds me of archaeological discoveries where modern construction accidentally reveals buried civilizations. In 1978, workers digging in Mexico City struck stone. What they uncovered was the Templo Maya, the main temple of the Aztecs, hidden for centuries beneath colonial buildings. Think about that, centuries of daily life happening on top of one of the bloodiest sacrificial sites in history. People buying bread, children playing, markets bustling, all on top of a pyramid soaked in blood. The revelation of the pyramid in From Dusk Till Dawn is the horror movie version of that. What happens when the buried past literally claws its way back into the present? Why this ending works? What makes the pyramid reveal so unforgettable is that it reframes everything. The Titty Twister isn't just a one-off nest of monsters. It's part of a system, a cycle, a civilization that never died, just hid. It transforms the story from random vampires in a bar to a cosmic horror tale. It's not about one night of survival. It's about a war that's been going on for centuries, a war most humans don't even know they're losing. That's what elevates From Dusk Till Dawn above other vampire flicks. It's not just gore and survival. It's mythology, it's history, it's legacy. Transition into next part. Now we've seen the full scope. The vampires are not undead. They are living descendants of a blood cult, guardians of a temple buried beneath the desert. The bar was only the surface. The pyramid beneath proves this is ancient, deliberate, and eternal. But what does this mean for us? Why does this story resonate so powerfully, even decades later? In Part 5, we'll explore the reflection and take away how this mythology connects to real-world fears, why it matters, and what lessons we can draw from the idea of ancient gods hiding beneath neon signs. Why this story resonates. At first glance, From Dusk Till Dawn seems like a grindhouse mashup, half crime thriller, half vampire splatterfest. But the deeper you look, the more you realize it's a story about history, mythology, and the horrors we bury. The Calabras are not random monsters. They're descendants of an ancient blood cult, guardians of temples disguised as truck stops. They're serpents tied to Aztec deities, living reminders that sacrifice and hunger never really went away, they just evolved. And isn't that the perfect metaphor for a horror itself? Horror stories survive because they adapt. They shed skins, take new forms, and survive across cultures. Dracula becomes Lestat. The Calabras become nightclub dancers. The gods beneath the desert never really die, they just wait for nightfall. Horror's cultural memory. I think what makes From Dusk Till Dawn so brilliant is that it uses horror as cultural memory. We in the modern world like to believe we've left certain things behind: blood sacrifice, cults, gods demanding human offerings. But the truth is, history has a way of resurfacing, sometimes in archaeology, sometimes in nightmares. The vampires in this story embody that resurfacing. They remind us that just because we build neon lights and highways doesn't mean the past is gone. The bones are still there, just under the sand, waiting. That's why the final camera pullback revealing the pyramid is such a gut punch. It tells us, this isn't over. It was never over. The seduction of darkness. When we look at the way the Calabras recruit, instead of merely kill, it mirrors real-world cults, gangs, even extremist ideologies. They don't destroy everyone they meet. They look for the vulnerable, the violent, the ones who feel like outcasts. They whisper, "You belong here. You're chosen. You're special." It's a chilling reflection of how humans can be drawn into destructive systems. Sometimes the scariest thing isn't being killed. It's being convinced to give up your humanity willingly. That's why Richie Gecko's temptation feels so authentic. It's not just about monsters, it's about how easily people can fall when someone finally tells them their darkness has a purpose. The pyramid and hidden power. The buried pyramid is more than a set piece. It's a symbol of hidden power structures in the world. Think about it. How many systems today thrive on invisible sacrifices? How many industries, governments, or organizations conceal the cost of their survival? The pyramid is a metaphor for exploitation that persists, hidden beneath entertainment, consumption, and distraction. The Titty Twister is the neon sign that hides the bones beneath, just as our world has polished facades that hide darker truths. Why the serpent matters. The serpent imagery isn't just cool monster design. It carries meaning. In cultures around the world, snakes represent duality, life and death, creation and destruction, wisdom and terror. By making the vampires serpentine, From Dusk Till Dawn ties them to something older and more primal than European vampires. It makes them archetypal symbols that tap into universal fears. And that's why they're unforgettable. They're not just killers. They're gods in disguise. The lesson. What lies beneath? So what do we take away from all this? The real horror of From Dusk Till Dawn isn't just the gore or the monsters. It's the reminder that what we see on the surface is rarely the whole truth. The bar isn't a bar. It's a temple. The dancers aren't dancers. They're priestesses. The drink isn't for pleasure. It's the prelude to sacrifice. And the desert itself hides a pyramid proof that the past is never really gone. The lesson is simple but haunting. Beware what lies beneath. Whether it's ancient temples under modern cities, cults hiding in plain sight, or darkness inside ourselves, the scariest things are often the ones just out of view. And if From Dusk Till Dawn teaches us anything, it's this: survival depends on seeing through the facade before the gods beneath demand their due. Closing words. So next time you see a lonely roadside bar, neon flickering against the dark, remember the Titty Twister, remember the Gecko brothers, and remember the pyramid beneath the sand. Because sometimes the monsters aren't hiding in castles overseas. Sometimes they're waiting right here, under our feet, disguised in neon and leather, whispering ancient prayers in the language of blood.